Absolutely diabolical. Messy, unconvincing, scary, worrying performance from the Hornets. But somehow Watford don't lose. West Brom don't punish Watford. And it finishes West Bromwich Albion 1, Watford 1. And that, my friends, is a smash and grab. It's daylight robbery. But Watford have taken a point in a game West Brom absolutely dominated almost from start to finish. Watford never got a foothold in the game, never really had a game plan, had any kind of influence on David Button, and that was it. Watford hanging by their fingertips, hanging like a thread, by a thread, whatever you want to call it. It was just backs to the wall, defending, no sense of team structure or back line or kind of backbone. It was just every man for themselves. Let's just hope we don't give it away. And we gave it away plenty of times, but West Bromwich Albion did not capitalise. So before we get into the match review of that draw at the Hawthorns, let's just reflect on the first thing we heard about, which was, of course, the team news ahead of the 8 o'clock kickoff that came in at 7. So David Button in goal for the Baggies. Back four of Townsend, O'Shea, Ajayi and Furlong. And then a midfield of Jake Livermore and Malumbi. And then a three of Grady Diangana, Swift and Jed Wallace. And then up front, Karlan Grant. We know how West Brom are going to play. We know how good Karlan Grant is. And we know how good Swift is. Did we deal with Karlan Grant well enough? Well, you only have to watch the goal to show the defensive mix-up and the lack of communication between our centre-backs. But certainly, Karlan Grant was lively. Grady Diangana, I was kind of underwhelmed by. I thought he would really give us more problems. But he did give us problems in the respect that he kept running down the sides. He kept giving problems for Hassan Kamara. And you know, that was ultimately the problem all game. Jed Wallace was superb all game, just with his passing, his delivery from set pieces, and given man of the match by Sky Sports, Don Goodman and Bill Leslie, I think. Let's talk about the Watford team. In goal, Daniel Bachmann. Honestly, along with who I'll go on to give the man of the match to do, he was superb, and I feel pity for him, honestly, I do, because the defence in front of him was a joke today, absolutely a joke. And if you go by the game for expected goals, we lose that about 4-1, and I'm not even exaggerating. Actually, no, forget that, 4-0, because we didn't have a chance that was expected to go back in the back of the net. And we'll talk about the goal, which is one that will go down in Watford history and probably in Championship history. But that performance certainly will not go down in any history because it was abysmal from the Hornets. But Daniel Bachmann, absolutely crucial in providing the kind of effort and the input to earn Watford the point today, because from the get-go, West Brom were all over us like a rash. The first 10 minutes or so, and already Daniel Bachmann is called into two very difficult saves that he makes so well. The first one, a really good effort. I think it was Furlong that hit it, and he smashed it, and it was after some very hesitant Watford defending. You know, a header away from Cabaselli and not cleared at all. Another header from Sierralta, and it drops down to Furlong, and it's a well-hit strike, but it's a really important tip over from the Austrian. And then again, Daniel Bachmann with an absolutely inspired save. And this time, it's the pick of the bunch. I mean, how Watford don't concede here, I really, really do not know. But Karlan Grant is given the freedom of the part. After the ball bounces, Watford switch off at the back. Way too much space. And Karlan Grant has to just stroke it either way, either side of the goal. But he just panics. He hits it quickly. And it's a fabulous save from Bachmann. using his legs and getting his body underneath it, and it just kind of loops underneath him and over the bar. What a save. What a performance from Daniel Bachmann. And then another great save in that first half. And it really was a special one because, that was going in the back of the net. I'm not sure who got the shot in. It might have been a header. But ultimately, it was a save you expected him to make. He still had to make it and kind of tipped it away from danger, palmed it away. And then in the second half, very early on, Watford, there's no reaction in the second half. They're still as sluggish as before. And Bachmann still has his work cut out with that defence in front of him doing very little. And, they get a shot away, West Brom, at the near post. Bachmann has to make the save again. So, really quite a difficult game for Daniel Bachmann, but I thought he came through it with flying colours. Not much he could have done about the goal because it was a great finish from a difficult angle. He took it down well, Colin Grant, and he finished well, which was, surprising considering all the other chances West Brom had that were on a plate, really, and not being taken. But Daniel Bachmann, fair play to you. Christian Kabasele had a bit of an interesting game. At times, I thought he was okay. Certainly, when he gets into kind of tackles, especially along the ground, he's good at those slide tackles, but you've got to say his pace is much to be desired, and at times he was getting caught out way too easily. With playing the back five in that 3-4-2-1, it means that the centre-backs are kind of quite isolated from each other. They're trying to spread across that back line so much that actually they start kind of wandering off a little bit, and Kabasele did do that a few times, but apart from his yellow card, which I thought was pretty harsh, I think generally it was a very bang average performance from Christian Kabasele, and I certainly thought he played better against Sheffield United. People saying he was sloppy on the ball and giving away the ball against the Blades, but I thought tackling wise he was superb. Not too bad today, but still not great and not filling with lots of confidence. Francisco Sierralta, on the other hand, I thought was a bit better. Had kind of phases throughout the game. Points where he was starting to look good, but then other points where he was just giving away silly errors. So I was mentioning that chance for Colin Grant that never should have been. That comes from a few dodgy clearances from Sierralta, and he's good at getting blocks in, but sometimes just not good on getting his foot through it and clearing away. But ultimately, Sierralta went off injured. A shame for him. Obviously, he only come back from an injury last season and didn't play a lot, so let's hope it's not too serious. But he did have to get substituted for William Troost-Ekong. Craig Cathcart, look, I just don't know how to kind of assess Cathcart anymore because his time is up, in my opinion. As good as a servant he's been to this club, he's been there for too long now, and it needs refreshing, that centre-back spot, and I just don't see any investment from Watford in those centre-backs, and Craig Cathcart will try as well as he might, but he's not got the pace anymore. He's not even got the strength, in my opinion, to kind of muscle off strikers, and I think he struggled most of the night, but, what can you do? Back kind of five as part of the wing-backs, Ken Sema, I thought, had a pretty poor game. It was different to the game against Sheffield United where Ken Sema was getting in behind the fullbacks and beating a man. There was very little of that in this game and very little of him crossing in balls because we didn't have the ball. We were sat back in our half very deep, and Sema, to be fair to him, struggled. But the reason for that is I think he's not suited, and Kamara's better suited out on that left-hand side. With Kamara playing right wing back, it's always difficult, especially with Kamara having to keep up with Diangana. But all day, Sema was struggling, and at points Diangana was switching out to the left-hand side for West Brom, and ultimately that led to problems. Led to problems because Diangana was then on Sema's side, and Diangana was getting way too easily past Sema. So that's one part of his game that, although he's good going forwards, he needs to be able to kind of stop the pathways to stop any crosses going in, because it was just way too easy to get down the sides for West Brom, and they were doing it time and time again. So yeah, not a great one for Ken. Kayembe I thought was really quite poor. Just his ball retention, and Watford in this game absolutely overrun in that midfield. I mean, you had Jake Livermore, who's not exactly a classy player, but he gets the job done, and he was just taking the ball off Watford so many times because Watford were just carelessly, playing around with it. How many times Watford played around with the back at this game, and it was just not needed. It's not necessary. Watford can't do it. They're not good enough at the playing out from the back, and the amount of times that Kayembe was just overcomplicating it, just play it out from the midfield, but it was just getting dispossessed, or he was hesitating and then losing the ball. So very difficult game for Kayembe, and also for his midfield partner Cleverley. I thought as captain he led the line in terms of his aggression at times. In the first half, a couple of times he went into tackles that, really it's good to see him doing that, and he won the ball back a couple of times. But ultimately, as I say, just got overrun in midfield, our midfield tonight. So a bit of a worrying one. I think we're really missing Imran Louza. I think his injury was a massive blow to start the season. And I thought, although that those two were okay against Sheffield United, not brilliant, but okay, we're certainly missing Louza, and I think we certainly saw that tonight with a lack of kind of purpose and energy and presence in that midfield. So that's a big worrying sign for me. Kamara obviously did get subbed off, which I don't agree with. I think they should have subbed off Ken and then switched out Kamara to the left and put Gaspar on the right. But, it is what it is. That's what Edwards decided. But I think maybe he thought Sema would get further forward. But with the way the game was going and Watford were just so backs to the wall, it was like Sema had to get back, and he's not going to offer the attacking threat. I mean, I say that, the front three nowhere near as good today than obviously on last Monday, the 1st of August, because the front three today, it felt like they were so much more isolated than against Sheffield United, and they were playing almost their own game at times. You had Dennis, who for me was really sloppy, just losing the ball often, and even when he didn't lose the ball, he was just quite slow in kind of going back and pressing again and trying to win the ball back. Whereas with West Brom, you saw it straight away. They were on it like a flash. As soon as they lost the ball, they tried to win it back, and just felt like Watford today were just a bit sluggish, just a bit, lethargic, and at times it was really disappointing to see that, because that's not the team that we saw against Sheffield United, and it was just we were kind of going back into our shell and looking quite lackadaisical. So Emmanuel Dennis, not great from him today. Certainly was probably one of our worst players in the attack, and it's worrying because that kind of performance doesn't inspire me that he really has all the kind of motivation to go for it, and that does spell trouble. It does seem like of the front three he might be most likely to leave, but we'll talk about Ismaila Sarr in a second and what that might have done for his market value. But let's talk about it. Ismaila Sarr, I mean, that is an unbelievable goal. Probably our goal of the season winner already in our first away game of the season. I mean, there's no right to score from there. I mean, I think it was a header from Cathcart. I couldn't quite tell. Someone headed it down, and it was just quite kind of it was quite nothing was going on. The West Brom defence were calm, but all of a sudden, Ismaila Sarr just sees Button off his line, and he just thinks, "Yep, I've got the ability. I can back myself." And boy, did he deliver. I mean, that was just unbelievable. But then it goes from the insane in terms of ability and skill and class, oozing class with that goal. And then it goes to the ridiculous with Ismaila Sarr in terms of missing that penalty. I mean, it was just a terrible, terrible penalty. It was well won, for sure. That was definitely a foul from Ajayi on Ismaila Sarr. But, it's very frustrating because we put ourselves in a position possibly to snatch a win where we probably don't deserve even a point. But, when you're in that position, you think just drive it home and smash it hard as hard as you hit the goal. But just didn't look confident taking it, and it wasn't hard for Button to save that and get down to his post. So look, Ismaila Sarr, certainly a great player. We know this, but I don't know. I don't think there's any chance that one of, or both of them stay. I think it's just the writing was on the wall when we got relegated. They're too good for us. But ultimately, there was a lack of ability tonight when it came to maybe Dennis more so. But just as a team today, we just weren't at the races, and it was just a bit disheartening because we were really looking a bit better against Sheffield United. I mean, it wasn't polished against Sheffield United. It was just we did enough. We scored a great team goal, and ultimately we were working for each other, even if the quality wasn't there. But today it felt like every time we'd get the ball, we'd just give it away, and there was no kind of urgency and seemingly no plan to kind of change the pattern of the game. And that's despite the encouraging signs on the touchline from Edwards, giving instructions to Emmanuel Dennis to move there and play this way, and giving instructions to Kamara and saying, yeah, you go there and you take on that fullback. But there was none of that under Roy Hodgson, none of that under Ranieri, and that's because there wasn't any kind of connection, not just with the fans, but with the players and the manager. So that's already a tick for me. But the problem I've got is that in this game, as much as he talked to the players, was there a battering at half time? Because if there wasn't, then that explains why we just came out in the second half and did the exact same thing. And also late subs. I mean, look, I'm sure he knows, Rob Edwards, what went wrong tonight, because it's clear for all to see, and that is we just weren't getting it and playing it properly. But the problem I've got is that we weren't then changing it up. We didn't bring on Ray Manai and Gosling and Truth to Kong until the 85th minute. So we were already at 1-1 for a long time when that equaliser in stoppage time of the first half went in. Maybe we change it at half time, maybe we change it at the 60-minute mark, but even then, no changes, and it felt like they were too late to come on and make a difference anyway. And we did a like-for-like switch with Dennis coming off and obviously Ray coming on, and then Sierralta with the injury coming off and Truce coming on, and then obviously we see Gaspar come on for Kamara. So it's all like-for-like changes when, yes, you could say we should go for it, but it just shows the lack of ability from Watford to put in a good performance, because it shows the desperation in the kind of ranks of the Watford staff, that they know that the best we could do is hold on for a point, especially when we had that chance to win it with the penalty, but we're just kind of going into our shell and completely struggling to stem the tide, and therefore the substitutions are not positive enough. They're not really getting us into the game and not changing how we approach it. So really quite frustrating. But one man I can't really be frustrated at tonight was João Pedro. Absolutely superb performance in my opinion. Just so brilliant on the ball. Unbelievable skills at times. Just absolutely mugging off that West Brom defence. The only thing I would say with João Pedro, which was a kind of a bit of a shame, was when he was getting the ball into dangerous areas, he was just not having a shot and not gambling. I mean, Watford all night really looking shot shy, and admittedly that is a 3-1 victory to West Brom based on the stats. I mean, 5 shots all game, doesn't feel like we had that many, only 3 on target, including of course the goal. So I really despair with that performance. It was just a very nothing performance from the Hornets, and 20 shots nearly for West Brom, and yet they come away with only a draw. So I think we have to be feeling very, very lucky and very fortunate, not just for Daniel Bachmann, who saved our skin, not just for the fact that West Brom missed loads of chances, but also the fact that in the second half, when we looked like we were going to throw it away, West Brom didn't score. And the fact that Sarr scored when we weren't losing and to put us ahead, if that hadn't happened, West Brom would have probably finished it in the first half with how dominant they were. So just really worrying how little we were able to get into that game and kind of stem the tide and kind of change the direction of the match. I just worry that we are going to get dominated by sides every kind of week if we play like this, and ultimately teams are going to be scoring a lot more goals than this and being a lot more clinical with their chances than this. So yeah, very worrying. I can't lie. But what a goal from Ismaila Sarr. What a great finish. I mean, I will never see probably a better goal as a kind of first goal of the season away from home than that. It was just unbelievable. So definitely, probably our goal of the season already, and maybe even the championship goal of the season already. It's just unbelievable technique, and it's an unbelievable goal. 50 yards, what a chip, what a lob. David Beckham, go home, mate. Hold my beer because Ismaila Sarr is here. But Carlin Grant, as I say, was a threat all night, and we just did nothing to stop him in that goal, because what Sierralta and Cathcart were doing, I do not know. Sierralta was just wandering over, not dealing with the situation, and has to be more authoritative there. So, look, I think best player of the night was João Pedro, followed by Bachmann, followed by maybe just for his goal, Ismaila Sarr, but ultimately he missed a penalty. He was quite poor after his goal, was the Senegalese, and that crossing in the second half was pretty sloppy. The only real chance I can think of that we had that wasn't the goal was that really good opportunity for Emmanuel Dennis in the first half, but it wasn't really an opportunity because of the great defending from West Brom and a crucial sliding challenge in the end from West Brom. It might have been Townsend that made it, but it was some good play from Watford. Finally, we start to kind of get a few passes together, and it's a fantastic ball across the goal from Ismaila Sarr, but before Dennis can get there, it's a touch on there. So, look, superb from Bachmann tonight. Really, really great goal from Ismaila Sarr. But as a team, as a unit, I think we're going to get found out at this level very, very easily if we don't buck up our ideas and change very, very soon. So, we've taken a point where we shouldn't have. We've got to think of it as we've played two very good championship teams and still not got beat. Admittedly, Burnley will be the toughest of the lot next Friday at Vicarage Road, but we've got the home fans to kind of get behind them. But they really have to kind of look at tonight and learn from it, because it wasn't good enough. It's as simple as that. It was a very, very poor performance, and I thought Dan Gosling had nowhere near enough time to make an impact. Just kind of sealing it out the game. Ray Manai, the same thing, and Gaspar did a few good things when he came on, kind of trying to shore us up a little bit, but I don't know. I think we've just completely robbed a point from West Bromwich Albion there, and I think we need to kind of just realise how poor we were and not just take the point and forget a crack over it, paper the cracks, because that won't be the way to do it. So I hope we're more tactically astute in the next game. I hope we're more, letting ourselves get into the contest rather than letting West Brom dictate us. That is seeming to be the way that we play at the minute on the counter-attack, and we were good against Sheffield United on the counter-attack, but tonight we showed not enough of it. So fingers crossed we win against Burnley, but we're unbeaten. However, sitting in a bit of a stinky position. Not stinky, that's the wrong word. That's a bit of a over-exaggeration, but I would like to have been better. When we could have been top, we're sitting in fourth. Come on, it's second Sunderland. How? But Burnley against Watford, third against fourth. We need to be better.